Greetings, everyone, and welcome. December the 10th, 2025, noon Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. in Kyiv, Ukraine. And yes, we have had a plethora of responses, and the propaganda is rolling on overload, calling Ukraine a failed state. So I have all of it breaking for you, translated. We have heard from Peskov, Zakharova, Lavrov. We've even heard from Mertz. We've heard from the Pope. You name it, we've heard from everybody. But Russia pushing a narrative right now that Ukraine is a failed state. They have rejected the energy truce, and I have it all for you, translated, voiced over, and subtitled. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I want to fight against this propaganda, and you can help me by sharing this video. Thank you. Let's jump straight to it. So, Zakharova, she is the spokesperson for the Russian Foreign Ministry. She was the first person to respond after the video or the audio report from Zelensky yesterday with that brilliant move. I'm ready for elections, but this is what it's going to need. This is what's going to be required, and let's hop to it. I'm not trying to control. I'm not a dictator. We are a nation at war. So Zakharova comes back today and pushes, to be honest, a smart play, but we have to fight against it to share the truth. Ukraine is not a failed state. It is a nation that is under attack from an aggressor and defending itself in a massive war that the world has not seen the likes of since World War II. She says it's a challenge even based on what he's already done. I can't think of a single country that would demand that elections be held on its territory without declaring that it has lost its independence and sovereignty, needing help from other nations. Here you go. Here's the clip from Zakharova. He said that the countries of Western Europe, the European Union, and NATO should provide him with security to conduct elections. Not that he can conduct them himself, but that they, other countries, should provide him with security. You know, I think that this is, of course, a new level of cynicism. This is even something, even for Zelensky, some kind of knight's move, I would say. It is really something, you know, and it's quite a challenge, especially given everything he's already stirred up. I mean, personally, I can't recall a single country that has demanded other states secure the holding of its elections on its own soil without effectively declaring it has lost its independence and sovereignty. I've never seen anything like this. So there you have it. That is the narrative that is being pushed and being amplified right now coming out of Moscow. Of course, on the outside, you could say, okay, well, there's a little bit of understanding there. Why? That's what they want you to do. But there's no reality in that statement. Ukraine is not a failed state. It is a nation under war that is trying to find peace, security, future, to regain its sovereignty, and trying to accommodate the immense amount of pressure coming into Kyiv, specifically from Washington, D.C. This is not easy. Zelensky doing a phenomenal job standing for what is right, making moves that is causing the Kremlin to have to respond with these accusations. So that is a win for Kyiv. And no, it's not hoping for me. It's easy to see. That's a win for Kyiv. Zelensky making that call instantly forced the hand of Russia to make statements that Ukraine is a failed state. In addition to that, Zelensky made the statement, hey, we're even ready for an energy truce if you want to have that kind of laying down of strikes on each other so we can communicate. Well, how did that go? Peskov on the energy truce. Russia is working for peace, not a ceasefire. Peskov, in response to Zelensky's statement about readiness for an energy ceasefire, listen to it yourself. According to one of Zelensky's statements yesterday, he said Ukraine is ready for an energy truce. Now, Russia had proposed this back in the summer, but Zelensky himself rejected this proposal, calling it untimely. And for Russia now, would this be timely for us? How does Moscow view this change in Kyiv's position? Do we have grounds to agree to this truce? I'll set aside some nuances for now, but we are working toward a peace agreement, a sustainable peace agreement long term, not a truce. We're going to have signed documents. That's our goal. Okay, so now make sure you're understanding Russia doesn't want a truce. Russia doesn't want to stop the war. They will call it, we want a peace, but what they actually want is a complete capitulation of Ukraine. And notice that he stated, well, we won't sign documents. And now that Ukraine is moving toward the possibilities of a presidential election, brilliant move once again. Who's going to sign the documents? Here we will go right back around the carousel. Russia will play every one of these narratives, and the Kremlin is pushing them hard. So now we need the trifecta. So we've heard about the election. We've heard about the failed state. We've heard about no energy truce. We want peace. Yeah, right. Okay. So what is now needed? Well, the trifecta is Sergei Lavrov. Lavrov coming out and dropping the compliments on the United States negotiation team of Witkoff and Kushner, dropping the compliments on Donald Trump. He's the only one that understands us. The U.S. proposals that Witkoff brought to the Russian Federation clearly ensured the rights of national minorities and religious freedoms in Ukraine. Any hostile actions, including the deployment of European troops in Ukraine, will receive a response from the Russian Federation. And Trump is the only Western leader who understands the root causes of the situation in Ukraine. So back to the election. Security guarantees for Ukraine, Zelensky talked about, brilliant move. So if European nations or American troops come in to provide security for an election, Russia's going to attack them? I mean, we have to listen to it for what it is. This is what he's saying. So this is the trifecta. First, about the U.S. First of all, President Trump, who, as I have said, he is the only one of the Western leaders who understand. You see, immediately after coming to the White House in January of this year, he began to understand the reasons that made the war in Ukraine inevitable. These are the things at the heart of the hostilities against us, the Russian Federation, which the West and Trump's predecessor, Biden, and his European subordinates have never understood. There you have it, guys. Trump is the only one that understands us, understands those root issues in Ukraine. Biden didn't. The European subordinates do not, did not, will not. Going along with the same theme where it was in a news article a couple of days ago, I can't remember who put it out, that Trump was pushing to side the European leadership. They were not really needed. This is pushing that narrative. So I just have to tell you, Trump will love these statements coming from Lavrov. Now, he continues on about inside Ukraine. Despite the need to face reality, London and Brussels, the European Commission leaders, and most of NATO and the European Union member states maintain a clearly destructive position on Ukraine, having invested whatever political capital they had in the war against Russia. Using Ukrainian citizens as pawns, they remain politically blind, clinging to the illusion they can somehow defeat our country. As the president emphasized, we have no intention of fighting Europe, not even a thought of it, but we will respond to any hostile actions, including the deployment of European military forces in Ukraine and the seizure of Russian assets, and we are prepared for this response. So there you have it, guys. You get to that election talk. We need security guarantees. We need some military in here from other nations. What did Lavrov say? Not going to happen, and we're already prepared for it. And by the way, if you even think about the frozen assets, we're prepared for that as well. This propaganda assault literally went tilt today. And if you analyze it and look at each sector of it, you can see this is playing right into the big narrative that the United States, or the Trump administration, not the United States, the majority of Americans, both sides of the aisle, anywhere, support Ukraine, support military support for Ukraine, support Ukraine and a future. Do not listen to the right-wing MAGA lunatics like Luna and Nick Fuentes and all these crazies out there. They're paid propagandists spewing lies. We as Americans, we stand for Ukraine. End of story. And those that don't are very misinformed, but we're trying to share the truth and hope for them as well. Now, you have a statement when the Pope has to begin speaking about politics even a little bit. The European Union and its leadership have been under pretty intense assault from President Trump and others in regard to Ukraine, in regard to America first, or make America great again. And yes, this all connects with Ukraine as well. But Pope Leo and Merz basically saying the same thing on the United States security strategy. Merz, quote, "In my discussions with Americans, I tell them, America first is fine, but America alone cannot be in your interest." He's 100% accurate. We cannot be a protectionist state. We cannot remove ourselves from the world stage. We are a part of this beautiful world. You also need partners in the world, and one of those partners can and should be Europe. Here's even the Pope.
What do you think about Trump's peace plan for Ukraine? Do you think it's fair?
I'd rather not comment on it. I haven't read the whole thing. I think, unfortunately, some of parts of it that I have seen make a huge change in what was for many, many years a true alliance between Europe and the United States. The remarks that are made about Europe, also in interviews recently, I think are trying to break apart what I think needs to be a very important alliance today and in the future. So it's a program that President Trump and his advisors put together, and he's the President of the United States, has a right to do that. It has a number of things in it that I think, while perhaps many people in the United States would be in agreement, I think many others would see things in a different way.
Very wisely stated there from the Pope, of course, who has to be very careful, but he confirmed the most important thing. And that is this new initiative, whether in the document or in interviews, is trying to tear apart the United States and European relationships. So as we close out this update, ladies and gentlemen, I remind you that that is exactly what Vladimir Putin wants. It's what the Kremlin wants, a complete implosion of the United States and Europe having good relations. Because if they do not have good relations, then Ukraine is just first on the list. This is where we're at today, and these are the facts of what is really unfolding. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, and subscribing. For those of you that are watching this before 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be going live in a couple of hours with Johnny Pierce, ATP Geopolitics, talking about all of these things and much, much more. Thank you for being here. We appreciate each and every one of you.